No, just start out with what it says in the directions. There's nothing about this way.
Snow Queen, action. Go for it.
Once upon a time, 100 winters ago, nay, even 200 winters, there was a wicked and mischievous sprite. Now, on this day, the sprite was in an unusually good mood. Filled with malicious delight, he set about creating a magical mirror. The mirror which the sprite created possessed a most curious power. When viewed in it, even the most beauteous thing would appear ugly, and an ugly thing would appear hideous. The wicked sprite, filled with mischief, decided to put his creation to use, and he flew around with it, gazing up at everything through his mirror. "That's glorious fun," said he. The wicked sprite was filled with mirth, for everything he viewed appeared ugly through that glass. Eventually, he decided that he would like to look on all of creation through that terrible mirror, and so he flew up to the sky, intending to look down on the uglified earth below. However, as he flew upwards to the sky, the mirror became slippery in his hands, and he dropped it down to the earth, where it was shattered into 100 million and more pieces. The shards of the cursed mirror were flung far, around the entire earth, but the power of the mirror was not broken. In fact, it did far more evil than ever before, for each of the pieces retained the terrible power of the whole. Each piece fell to a different place, and if the piece fell into someone's eye, that person would only have an eye for that which was evil. Some people even got a piece of the mirror in their hearts, and those hearts that were the shard's victims became like lumps of ice. And now we meet our hero, a girl named Gerda, and her young friend Kay. They were not brother and sister, but they cared for each other as if they were. These two children lived next to each other, and in the summer, before frost got the windows stuck shut, they could speak to each other from their opposing windows. In the gutter between these two windows, they had placed a box in which they grew the most beautiful roses. Now, one day, Gerda and Kay were tending to their roses. The clock in the church tower was just striking 5 when Kay cried out, "Ow! I feel such a sharp pain in my heart, and now something has gotten to my eye." It was one of those pieces of the magic mirror that had gotten in his eye, and poor Kay had gotten another right in his heart. "I say," said Kay, for now he was under the mirror's power, "that rose is cankered, and that one is crooked. After all, these roses are very ugly." And the boy tore out both roses. And from then on, Kay had only an eye for evil, seeing only the worst in things and in people. He could imitate the manner and gait of anyone, all those things that were displeasing in them. And many said he must be very clever, that it was the glass he had got in his eye and in his heart, which made him tease even little Gerda. And then winter came. Little Kay took delight in the snowflakes and said, "These are much better than flowers, for they have no fault in them, save that they melt." Now when snow falls, it is like the little white bees are swarming. And just as with honeybees, the white bees always choose a queen. This snow queen flies right at the center of the snowstorm on her sledge. Kay, upon seeing the great sledge, jumped aboard on the back. And Gerda was not there when this happened. She was off stage. But the Snow Queen's sledge moved quickly, and soon it had left the village, with Kay on it. Kay, the boy, on it.
This is a boy.
That's Snow. Kay tried to say aloud the Lord's Prayer, but all the poor frightened boy could remember was his multiplication table. Sometime later, the sledge stopped, and the Snow Queen rose up. "We have traveled far," she said, "but it is very cold. Come under my bearskin." But Kay was still cold, so the Snow Queen kissed his forehead. Ah, it was colder than ice, and Kay's poor heart was already almost a frozen lump. But in a second, Kay could no longer feel the cold. Then the Snow Queen kissed him again, and he forgot all about little Gerda and those he had left behind. "Now you will have no more kisses," said she, "or else I should kiss you to death." And Kay saw that she was very beautiful, with a face more clever than he could have imagined. And he told her that he could do sums in his head, even with fractions, and knew the number of square miles and people in many countries. She smiled as he talked, but it seemed to him as if what he knew was not enough. and the Snow Queen's sledge took them to her castle, far to the north. Now, after Kay was taken away by the Snow Queen, all presumed him dead, drowned in the river. Gerda too believed it, and wept many bitter tears, saying, "Kay is dead and gone." But the sun said, "This I don't believe." And the swallow said, This we don't believe." And Gerda decided that she must know once and for all. "I will put on my red shoes and go down to the river," said little Gerda, "and I will ask there." Gerda, well, Kay was not there, or the sledge, came to the river and asked it, "Is it true that you have taken my little playfellow? I will make you a present of my red shoes if you will give him back to me." It seemed to her as if the blue waves nodded in some strange manner, and Gerda did as she had said, casting her pretty red shoes, the most valuable thing she owned, into the river. But the little waves bore them back immediately. Gerda, thinking that she had not thrown them far enough, stepped into the little boat by the river and cast her shoes into the water once more. But the little boat quickly bore Gerda away from shore. She was very frightened at first, but the little sparrows flew after her and said, "Here we are, here we are." "Perhaps the river were carrying me to little Kay," said Gerda, and she became less sad. Soon, Gerda came to shore at a little cottage with a garden full of flowers. And the woman who lived there said, came out of the door. She said, "Please come, oh, you poor thing, please come inside and tell me how you came to be here." And Gerda went in and told the woman her story. Now this woman was one who understood magic, and she decided that she would like to keep Gerda for herself. So upon hearing the girl's story, she came out into the garden with Gerda. She combed Gerda's hair, and as the woman combed, little Gerda forgot all about her friend Kay. Then, when Gerda was not looking, the woman raised her cane and made the roses in her garden sink into the ground, for she knew that if Gerda saw them, she would remember Kay and her home. And save the roses, there were more flowers than you could imagine, from every season. Little Gerda played in that lovely garden until some time had passed. "Now let me go inside and fix you something nice to eat," said the woman, and she did just that. When the little old woman had gone, Gerda looked around the garden. She knew every flower by name, but it seemed as if one kind was missing, though Gerda knew not which. Now Gerda's eyes came to rest upon the woman's hat that she had left by the door. The hat was painted all over with bright, pretty flowers. The woman, it transpired, had forgotten to make the roses on her hat vanish when she vanished all the other roses. But things are always like that when one's thoughts are not collected. Gerda gazed upon the roses and said to herself, "Are there no roses here?" And Gerda ran around the flower bed searching, but no roses were to be found. So Gerda sat down and wept, her hot tears watering the ground right where a rose bush had sunk into the ground. The rose bush immediately sprang up as if it had never gone away, and at the sight of it, Gerda's memories of Kay sprang back up in her head. "Oh, but I have been here so long," said Gerda, "and I was meaning to look for Kay." She then addressed the flowers in the garden. "Have you seen poor Kay? Do you think he is dead?" "Dead he is certainly not," said the roses, "for we have been in the earth where all the dead are, and he is not there." Gerda was filled with joy, and she asked all the other flowers in the garden if they had seen her friend. The flowers would talk only of themselves, as they were very vain, so Gerda left that place and set out on the road. And the cottage vanished behind her. And its garden. She had been on the road for some time when out from the tree sprang a little robber girl with a knife. "Halt," said the girl, "and turn over all of your things." Poor Gerda had nothing to give, and she told the robber girl so. "Very well," the girl replied. Then you shall be my playmate and spend the rest of your days in my home with me. The little rubber girl's home was a little clearing in the woods, where Gerda followed her. There, little Gerda related to the girl all that had happened to her, and how much she cared for little Kay. The rubber girl, moved with sympathy, said to Gerda, "Well, my playmate, I have decided that I will help you in finding the Snow Queen and little Kay." Gerda was overjoyed to hear this, and asked her new friend where the Snow Queen might be found. She will be north of Finland," said the rubber girl at once, "for there is always snow and ice there." The two girls set out immediately. After many, many miles of walking, they reached the house of a Finn woman. The little rubber girl knew this woman, who gave them shelter and a warm room. Then the little rubber girl took the Finn woman aside and then she said to her, "Woman, I know that you are learned in the ways of magic. It is said that you can twist all the four winds together in a knot and let them out to speed sailors on their way. Can you not give little Gerda a potion that will give her the strength of 12 men, that she may defeat the Snow Queen?" "The strength of 12 men?" laughed the Finn woman. "Much good that would do her. No, it would not help in the slightest. I can give Gerda no more than the power she already has. Can you not see how great this power is? The beasts and people of earth must help and serve her. This is why you helped her, and how she has gotten to within miles of her goal, on only her 2 bare feet. But she must not hear about this gift from us, for it lies within her heart, because she is a sweet and innocent child." And the little robber girl was moved by these words, but still she wondered what would face Gerda at the Snow Queen's icy palace. The Finn woman then told her, "'Tis true little Kay is at the Snow Queen's, and he finds it much to his liking there. But this is because he has got a splinter of glass in his eye and in his heart. These first must be removed, or else he will never come back to mankind. The Snow Queen will retain all her power over him." Then the Finn woman sent them on their way to the Snow Queen's palace, where the little robber girl parted Gerda's company. Gerda journeyed into the palace herself to find her friend Kay. Well, we have followed little Gerda's story for so long that now we must take a moment to learn what had become of Kay after he was taken by the Snow Queen to her palace. Kay sat all the day long in a little island in the frozen lake which the Snow Queen called the Mirror of Understanding. He was all blue with cold, but he did not feel it, for the Snow Queen had kissed away the cold. Kay's icy hostess had provided him with some pointed flat pieces of ice, which he dragged around in all sorts of shapes, thinking this the most important thing in his little world. There was one shape which the boy wanted desperately to find, but it stubbornly eluded him. This is the word eternity, for the Snow Queen had told him, "If you can discover that figure, you shall be your own master, and I shall make you a present of the whole world and a pair of new skates." But still the word eluded little Kay. Now one day the Snow Queen said to him, "I must go now to the warm lands and look down the black cauldrons," by which she meant the volcanoes of Vesuvius and Etna. "I will give them a fresh coating of white, for that is as it ought to be, or for that is as it ought to be. Besides, it is good for the oranges and the grapes." Now it was that very day that Gerda had come to be at the palace of the Snow Queen, and not an instant after the owner had left, Gerda came upon Kay on the little island. They crossed the frozen waters to him and embraced her, or she crossed the frozen waters to him and embraced her friend, saying, "Sweet little Kay, have I found you at last?" But he sat quite still, benumbed and cold, and poor little Gerda shed burning tears, which fell on Kay and went straight to his heart. They felt the ice there and consumed the splinter of the looking glass. Hereupon Kay too burst into tears, and he cried so hard the sliver of mirror rolled out of his eye. "Gerda, sweet little Gerda," he cried, "what has become of us? It is so cold and empty in here." The little pieces of ice danced for joy at his waking, and they lay down in exactly the letters the Snow Queen had bid Kay to form. Now he was his own master, with the whole world and a new pair of skates thrown into the bargain. They took each other by the hand and went forth from that lonely place. Along their journey, they met the little robber girl, who decided to go on a journey of her own. "I should like to know," she said to Kay, "if you deserve that one should walk from one end of the earth to another for your sake." Kay and Gerda thanked her for her help, and also thanked the kind Finn woman when they came by her house. And then, after long, long miles of walking, they reached home. They sat down, and at last they understood the words of the Bible. Unless ye become as little children, ye cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. For there sat the two grown-up persons, grown up and yet children, children at least in heart, and it was summertime. Summer, glorious summer. End.
Okay, let's see, 15 minutes